Welcome to Spiritual Talk with Christy, Godwin, and Friends, an authentic podcast where we sit and discuss all things spiritual. Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome to my podcast, Spiritual Talk with Christy, Godwin, and Friends. I am Christy Godwin, and I have the beautiful Willow Star here. Welcome, welcome, Willow.
Welcome. Thank you for having me.
Now, Willow, I was connected to her on TikTok via someone tagging me in one of her videos. Willow has just a beautiful energy about her. She has traveled. She is a cancer thriver. I love the way she puts that. She has really gone into this journey intuitively, coming up with some ideas that are kind of out of the pocket. I do want everyone to know that mine and Willow's journey is not going to be the same for everyone else. So just, we're here to inform, but don't think that you have to do the same things we are. She has a beautiful business where she gives one-on-one support to cancer thrivers. And she has something, you have to go to her website and check it out. It's the healing van. That was so cool, where you can go and sit in her van. The energy rolling off of it, even on your website, is amazing. And it has crystals and pillows. And then she is also going to be offering weekends with Willow, and then some extended stay, like weekends in a couple of days, where you can go and learn just some tricks of self-healing, some great recipes, and how to meditate, some breath work, yoga. Those are all so important when you're a cancer thriver. Now I'm gonna tell you where to find her, but I will have it in the verbiage also. So you can just look at the verbiage if you're watching this on my YouTube channel or on the podcast. Her email is connect@willowstar.com. Her TikTok is
Connect at Meet Willow Star.
Yes, she's right. I have that written down. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I have it written down.
It's a long one.
I even have it written down here. Connect at meetwillowstar.com. And then TikTok is Meet Willow Star, Instagram is Meet Willow Star, and Facebook is Willow Star. She also has a YouTube channel under the same name, and her website is meetwillowstar.com. Now, don't worry about writing that down. I will have it in the verbiage. I can pop down and look in the verbiage wherever you're watching this on. Now, you were diagnosed 6.5 years ago with metastatic breast cancer, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Now, how did you find it?
Yeah. I had been getting mammograms regularly since I was like 30, because I had so much cancer in my family. My mom had stage 4 primary peritoneal cancer. She's still alive 20 years out. And she's a whole nother story. Like, she didn't change anything in her life and she's alive. I'm like, great. Everybody's healing journey is
absolutely.
Yeah. So I was getting regular mammograms every year. And ironically, I'd had a mammogram in November of 2015 and it showed nothing. And I have very dense breasts. Even though they were small, they're dense. And it said right on the bottom, if you have dense breasts, it might not show. Interestingly enough, in April, I'm driving to go pick up my kid from work, and I reached over because I didn't have on a bra, and I was driving in my pajama top. I was leaving the next morning for a getaway with my girlfriends. And I reached over and I was like, I knew it. I just felt the size of this lump in my breast and the hardness of it. I was just like, holy shit. And then my kid felt it and they were like, oh my God, Mom. And the next day I was leaving to go to Austin, Texas with my 2 best girlfriends for kind of an intervention to leave my marriage. That I had to find a way out, and I was a puddle, and they were just like, we have to go. So I feel this lump and I'm like, oh my gosh. It was perfect because it really helped me in understanding I had to leave the marriage. And I called, made an appointment. They were able to see me. They had one appointment. The day I came back, I went straight to the hospital from the airport. And 6 hours later, test after test, and the nurses looking at me with that look, like,
I know that look,
like you said, and they're like, oh, and it's all of a sudden it's way after hours, but they're all staying and they're doing a biopsy, and they're, oh yeah, anything we can do to make you comfortable, and and I was like, this is not good. I was like, I have cancer. And yeah, so it was a very interesting, that I'd been planning my whole life that I was going to get cancer, and I was trying not to get it, and yet I did. And yet
Mhm.
the mammogram didn't find it. So I always tell people with dense breasts, go for the
Yeah,
thermoscans, ultrasounds, palpate yourself. It's the mammogram isn't always going to find it. And when they looked back, they did see it. The
yeah,
radiologist missed it. So we have to always advocate. That's, I'd say
absolutely.
probably the biggest lesson I've learned in the medical system.
And the same thing. Well, when I told Willow this, and this is mostly about Willow, but I did want to advocate for that also because I was not regular. COVID hit. I have all kinds of excuses why I wasn't having regular mammograms. I had been, I'm a psychic medium. I had been getting from the other side, get a mammogram, get a mammogram. I was ignoring it. I was in between appointments one day, and all of a sudden, my cell phone is calling the local hospital. I was like, what? That meant I had to Google the number and call it. And so I was like, okay, I guess I'm making an appointment for a mammogram. And the same
I
thing, I have very dense breasts. They called me back, which was not unusual, but they did catch it. And then I knew the same thing, like when they did the second, I could just tell from the
yeah,
second mammogram that I had
they're
it.
not very, they don't have very good poker
No,
faces.
they don't. And then when they did the ultrasound, they put this titanium chip, for those of you listening who've never had this done, in the lump. So when they do surgery to remove it, they can find the lump again. And so when I wanted to have the titanium chip put in, the doctor didn't tell me that I had cancer, but she did.
Yeah.
She was just you could just tell from her the way she was talking. And she kept saying, make sure you have someone around you when you look at the results, because of course, where I am, I'm sure it's a lot like where you are. You can just go on the computer now and see your results.
Yeah.
She's like, make sure
Yeah.
you have the results around you.
Yeah.
So now when you were diagnosed, you were instantly stage 4.
Yeah. Yeah.
So your cancer wasn't playing around.
It, no. And I really believe there is a reason for everything. And when they told me, so after, so I knew I had cancer, but they didn't tell me I had cancer. I was waiting a week. In that time, I in therapy with my ex, and I were in couples counseling for 3.5 years, hadn't made any progress. I walked in and I said, we need to transition to how do we be co-parents together and how do we stay friends, but like the marriage is over. And then that was on Wednesday. And then Friday I get the call and they're like, you have breast cancer. They told me over the phone. So I literally called my kids. They were probably 20, 21 at the time, 19, 20. And I called them and I was like, hey, I've got cancer. I'm going to the bar with my girlfriends. I'll talk to you guys later. Like, that's how disconnected, like I was in my life was in shambles at the time.
Mhm,
It's kind of like,
mhm.
whatever, I've got cancer now. It couldn't get any worse, yep, here it is. I'm going to go to the bar. I'm making so much jokes. I'm like, this is the best. Oh, it's so fun. And I get to use the cancer card and whatever. And I'm drinking. I'm just like, whatever. I did not take it seriously at all. It was kind of like an annoyance. So then I get a call a few days later. We need to do a brain scan and a liver biopsy. And then I was like, well, that's weird. I have breast cancer. Why do I need?
Right.
I did not know one thing about metastatic cancer. So I go in and I do all the tests, and then they call me in. The first oncologist. So I don't know these people. I don't know this hospital, but she's like, she says, it's not what we hoped for. This is the first thing she says to me. I had this all on recording and now I listen to it as comedy. It's just crazy what she said to me, but she's like, it's not what we hoped for. I was like, well, what does that mean? She says, well, you have metastatic breast cancer. I've never heard of this before. And I said, well, what does that mean? She says, that means that this cancer will take your life. This is within 2 minutes of sitting in a stranger's chair in a hospital by myself, that she tells me, I have a date planned after this with somebody new. Like, this is how crazy my life is. And I'm like, okay. And the interesting thing was I kept hearing, you're going to be okay. You're going to be okay. I
Mhm.
have faith.
Mhm.
It's interesting now. My body just went electric again. Now that when you said, you were getting these downloads from spirit, I was not connected to spirit like I am now, or to my intuition, but it was really interesting. I said it probably 100 times in this conversation, in this 20-minute conversation with her. I have faith. I'm going to be okay. I have faith. And I was definitely not a religious person, but I've always felt a connection to a higher power.
Mhm.
And I left there and I was just like, holy shit.
Right.
It was
Right.
the most intense. I went to this date that I met this guy like a week. I was like, dude, I'm a mess. Like, I'm a hot mess. Really, but spirit put him there to be there in that moment. And he was really close to the hospital. And we went and sat and drove and looked at the Golden Gate Bridge. We sat, I've known him for 2 weeks. He's young, 24 years old. I'm 46. I'm like, what is my life right now? And he had a deep connection to God and spirit. He was raised with really strong values and parenting. He had been in addiction. He had been in his own struggles. And he's a loving human, but he didn't know me that well. So he's not falling apart. So he was able, so I sat for like 5 hours in my car before I went home, where I knew everybody, I'm getting, my phone is blowing up. And I had that time to really sit in just that silence of the world. So I'm sitting in my
Yes.
car and the world is still happening.
Yes.
And I'm
Yeah.
like, they just told me I'm going to die. Right.
I sometimes wish I had had that time, because I was on the computer with my oldest daughter when she's the one, she told me, because we're reading the report together, and she read that I had cancer. My husband's home. So instantly, not only are you dealing with your own emotions, you're instantaneously dealing with everyone else's emotions at the same
Yeah.
time. It would have been nice to be able to sit with myself for a while before because I never had that break to be able to deal with myself. Instantly, you're thrown into
Yeah.
everyone else's emotions.
I've only seen it from my side of my
Mhm.
experience and how grateful I am. And that does feel like even a good tip for people is because what are most women, I would say, navigating breast cancer or any kind of cancer, we're caregivers, we're
Yeah.
taking care. So it's like, what do you want to do? I'm going to be fine. This was me. My ex is sitting there in a puddle saying, we have to stay together and you can't die. This is what I'm hearing. You can't die. So this is me. I'm fine. I'm not going to die. I'm going to be fine.
Right.
I couldn't sit with, so I had that 5 hours just to be like, oh my God, this is not a joke. And that was the smackdown. And, we've heard the rock, first you get the pebble, then you get the rock, then you get the brick. I needed the cement truck to literally just be like, girl, this is not a joke. And you're going to die if you don't get your life together, And so I had 2 days. I went home. My family absolutely fell apart. The most tears and crying and, and then, my ex saying we need to stay together. And I said, we can't. And we had to live together for 3 years in the same house, which was incredibly painful. And challenging. It's one of the reasons why I never left the marriage was finances. So it was like, now we have to live in the house, and now we're single after being together our whole lives. And it was the hot mess show. I mean, I was a hot mess for the first 3 years of that journey. And it's why I'm here. I was able to fall apart. I was able to be, I'd never been single since I was 14 years old. Like, I became a 14-year-old with stage 4 cancer. That's like, what? Like, now is the time for me just to be me and to put my needs first. And I spent 2 days in a pepper spray bubble, I call it, where the words, like my friends, we were runners, so we're going on a run. I hated running, but it was how I got to see my friends. And we're going on a run the day after I've been told I'm gonna die, in 2.5 years. And I just felt like hot, prickly, and everybody, it was just like, wah, 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 wah. And I'm watching. I remember just watching, and I'm like, oh, they're getting in their car. They're not gonna, nobody told them they're gonna die tomorrow. Like, they're just living their life. Like, it was such a surreal and
Mhm.
profound energy. And then 2 days of that, and I was like, fuck this, I'm out. I am out. I'm not doing this. I'm like, this isn't me. This isn't this is not the person I am. I was like, I'm positive. I'm fine. I'm going to be okay. And that was it. That was I had 2 days of being in this really negative, not even
Mhm.
negative, scared, terrified.
Right, 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 right.
And then it was just like, yeah, I don't, I feel like I was just getting these messages, you're going to be okay. And you can do this,
Mhm.
fake it till you make it. And so, in the beginning, I was just like, I'm fine. And then the cannabis at night would be like, you're not, you're going to die. And the cannabis, I hated cannabis. It was my nemesis. I spent my whole life, it was a huge issue in my marriage. It was a huge issue with my kids. And it was like the devil. And all of a sudden, I knew that I had to do cannabis, and I didn't want to, but it kept coming at me. And I was like, I hate this plant. And it was, so many of the lessons have been the biggest ironies of my life, is having
Right.
to just like, okay. And now I'm like, the cannabis queen. And I believe it's harmful in certain ways, and I believe it's very helpful in certain ways.
But
And
isn't that the truth with everything?
yes,
That's the
yeah,
truth with everything. Like,
that's
most things are not harmful if they're used correctly. Of course, some things are, but
that's
for the most
that's
part,
very true. Even
most things,
water, you can die from drinking too much water.
absolutely,
So that
absolutely.
is very true. And it's so it was interesting because the cannabis in the high dose, it would bring up a lot of anxiety. It's an interesting thing that I've noticed through the years, because I'm still on a maintenance dose now. And I still am affected by it, which is crazy. I'm like, I've been on this high amount for all this time, but I feel like it's how spirit talks to me.
Mhm.
I feel like this plant is it has so much wisdom in it, and it connects to what I need at the right time. And so in the beginning, those nights, those trips were just like terrifying, because I would be all day like, I'm fine, I'm doing great, you guys. And then at night, I think I'm doing great. I wouldn't fall asleep, and the cannabis dose would hit. And it was just like everything that I was afraid of would come up.
So
And
now you decided that they were only going to give you a couple of tablets, you said, and you had like 2.5 months before your diagnosis, before you got into the doctor you wanted. What
yeah,
was your first step? Where did you start researching? What made you start cannabis and do some of these other things?
yeah, I think when I look back, these things were just plopped in front of my face, like spirit calling your
I,
mammogram place for you.
I do want to tell everyone listening, in my industry, we call those synchronicities. Please listen to them.
Yeah.
Typically, they come in sets of three, or you will hear it and it will resonate. It'll hit in your gut instinct. Always follow those. Everyone has a beautiful team on the other side trying to love and support them. And
Wow.
so it sounds like your team did a good job getting in touch with
It's
you.
so true. And I think I was held so beautifully in the beginning without understanding how I was being held.
Yes. Yeah.
And now my connection to myself and to spirit through this journey, it's like when I look at all the things that happened, like all the people that connected me to this woman, and that she wasn't available for 2.5 months. And she did do these great things. Like, I'm super grateful to her. The cannabis came through. I had a friend from high school that she posted green goddess, everything that she posted was about cannabis. I actually muted her because I was like, I can't hear any more about cannabis. But my cousin got cancer, and I was like, oh, she was a pot smoker. I was like, you need to talk to my friend. She says cannabis helps cancer. So my cousin went through and connected with her, and that's a whole nother story. But so I had this like, oh, she is the connection to cannabis. When I got my diagnosis, it was just, you need to do cannabis. It wasn't even a question. And she connected me. I went to the dispensary and I was like, I need cannabis to heal my cancer. And this girl sells me this like spray, CBD, $20, says do 3 sprays in your mouth. I get home and I'm like all like scared. I'm like, oh my God, I'm like taking cannabis, and I take some sprays. I'm like, wow, for $20 and this, I'm going to cure cancer. This is amazing, And then the next day I was like, I actually don't think this is going to cure my cancer. And I called my friend and she connected me to this dispensary that focused on cannabis very medicinally, not recreationally. And they got me instantly. Like, this woman at this first dispensary should have said, I really don't know about cancer and cannabis.
Right.
She
did, go to a medicinal place.
Yeah. So this bud tender, she connected me to the manager and says, oh, his mother has cancer. He'll be able to connect you. He instantly referred me to a nurse practitioner who dosed cannabis, she's an RN, so she understands cancer, and she has worked with people with stage 4 cancers, and she can dose you. And so that was just, again, it was just like this one-stop shopping. I feel like spirit just handed me to one person, and then that person handed me to the next person.
Yes.
And it's like, I didn't have to try. And my prayer through all of this, when I pray to spirit, I've said, please, spirit, make it easy and make it obvious, the path that I'm supposed to take.
Yes.
I will take if this path has goblins and ghouls and broken glass and fire and dragons, I'll take it. If I know that this is the path you want me to go on. I'm a Libra. I get all over the place. I don't always trust myself. So please make it so easy and obvious, the path that I'll take it. And
I do want to say that a lot of people don't trust themselves. I mean, before we started, I was telling Willow a story about how, I am I'm a exceptionally trained psychic medium. And you still doubt messages that come for yourself. And I want people watching this to just feel empowered to listen for the synchronicities. Do exactly what Willow was doing. Talk to your team. Say, make it obvious. We were talking about before also, I opted out of my second surgery. And the more I felt like it wasn't right, but I wasn't going to move on a feeling. And then spirit started dropping things in that made it clear to me. I'm going to take a whole podcast to talk about that, but made it clear things that I dropping in. I wasn't supposed to do the second surgery. Talk to everyone listening. Please talk to your team on the other side, but then be open and trust that they're going to answer you.
Yes.
Even whenever people come to me for readings, or they are talking about their intuition, you can discount anything. You can discount that the sky is blue right now. Right now I'm in Nebraska. It's a beautiful blue sky. You could discount, you could argue anything. Be open and accepting, and knowing that you have a beautiful team on the other side who loves and supports you, and trust them.
Yeah. One of my favorite stories, a side tangent, is when my mother-in-law died, when she was getting ready to pass, she's like, I'm going to come and visit you. And we're like, well, how will we know? And she says, I will be a white feather. I will come to you as a white feather. So she told us this. So she had 2 daughters, and then I'm a daughter-in-law, and then she had 5 sons. As soon as she died, oh my God, the feathers, everywhere, everywhere. And the girls, we were all like, oh my God, mom. And we would like have a little thing with her. The boys, they would see a feather and they were like, oh, there's a feathered pillow in the other room. Oh, of course, there's a park across the street. They would always find the way to not. And my ex said that he was running down to the, and I would always say, it's your, like, let yourself believe it, let yourself
Yes.
when you feel it. Why not? And so he said he was running down to the beach, going down the stairs to the beach. He was a big surfer and he would always dedicate his surf to his mom. He's got his surfboard, he's running down, saying a little prayer to his mom, and a feather comes down and he discounts it. And he said, and he all of a sudden he said a whirlwind of the most white feathers around him, like every seagull feather on the beach. He said whirled around him, and he goes, from that day on, he was like, okay, God, like it's my
No,
mom.
mom.
I'm not gonna do
Whenever
that.
whenever I do readings for people, if the spirit gives me something that's just really, yes, hit home, so perfect, something they did yesterday, I frequently compliment spirits and I'll say, good job, y'all did a good job. So I'm gonna say right now for your mother-in-law, good job, mom. That was kick ass.
I love that. I love that. I do give a lot of gratitude, but I like the cheerleading, like that.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah, yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So now you went for the cannabis, and what other
Yeah,
changes
and
did you
then,
make?
and interestingly enough, this is something I also like to share. For me, sharing my journey out loud is why I'm healing, is why I've been going through, why I've got connected to the things that I've got connected to, is because I've shared out loud. I hear a lot of people, and I'm not sure all the reasons why. I think I understand some of them. They get very internal with their diagnosis. They don't tell people, they keep it a secret. I'm not here to judge anybody, and I want to inspire people, and encourage people to think about the reason that they don't want to tell people. And if it's actually a really valid reason, or if it's maybe an old programming, like if it, and so, because for me, by speaking, you don't have to get on TikTok and tell everybody, but like, letting your communities know. I literally, every single person I talk to, I would just be like, I'm healing, and using the words, I never say I have cancer, ever. I am healing cancer. So I would tell, oh, I'm healing cancer, and this is why I'm doing this. And then somebody would be like, oh, have you ever tried this? And so I announced on Facebook very publicly, I have stage 4 cancer, and I'm here, I'm ready to heal. And please, I'm open to any support. And this gal I went to high school with, we were very good. We weren't good friends. We were friends in high school and hadn't talked to her in years. And she says, you have to talk to my stepmom. She's close by you. She's my witch. She's a witch doctor, she called her. And she's like, you need to talk to her. I didn't even question it. I called her. Within a week, I'm sitting in her chair with a rife machine on me. And this woman, to this day, I'm like, when my time is here to pass, I want you there to advocate for me, because she's so spirit guided in her, healing. So she connected me to the rife machine and to some Chinese herbs that I started on. And she said, don't ever go off of these. And my cannabis woman said, do what your doctor is telling you. And you're going to take this cannabis dose at this height until your tumors are gone. Then you're going to be a maintenance dose, and you're not going to go off of it. And I was like, okay. And so I started so that was like my real introduction. And then I, Googled a lot, but I really, it was me sharing out loud that connected me. And it was like, oh, my acupuncturist connected me to the nutritionist. My acupuncturist is the one who told me, and I'd already been working with her. One of the biggest gifts I got was when she told me about she had called out my liver 2 weeks prior. She's like, what's going on in your liver? I'm like, oh, I've just been depressed. I'm drinking every night with my gays. Like, I don't know. It's like, it's just me being naughty in my body. And then 2 weeks later, I'm like, girl, I have stage 4 cancer and I have breast cancer in my liver. And she's like, oh, your liver in Chinese medicine is your anger organ. It's where we process our anger and our resentments. And as soon as she said that, ding, 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 ding,
Yes.
I had been angry and resentful my whole life because I'd been married to a man that I knew I shouldn't marry. And my life was not mine. I did not choose one part of my life.
Yes.
And I was angry, but I was smiling.
That is huge. I mean, I don't even know if we can delve into that. I don't know if we have enough time for that, but I do want to touch on it. Cancer a lot of it is, matter of fact, right here, I didn't even realize this book had it. I was reading, no, not that one. I have like 5 books going on. Louise Hay. Yes. I don't know if anyone has heard of her, Louise Hay.
Yes, my favorite.
You Can Heal Your Life. And yes. I had just picked it up. I pulled it off my bookshelf the other day because I was looking for something new to read. And she starts talking about how disease is about, energy. And I really feel like mine is based on some forgiveness. I mean, I think it's really nice when people look at other people's lives from the outside looking in and think it's all perfect and they don't realize the trauma they've actually experienced. I always say, because I can put my makeup on and match my clothes, that people think I've had a blessed life.
Yes.
Because I can look the part.
Well, and we're very good at hiding it and pretending. Like for me, we were the perfect family. Oh my gosh. Like,
so good. Moms are great actors. Moms are fabulous. And you know what? You look at, working and being a mom and cleaning and carting the kids around and being just being the manipulator of the entire life, the scheduler, you putting everything in place and never really getting to know who you are at a soul level. And just, you keep going. And I can remember at some point, at one point, my husband and I, we got married very young. I was 17 and he was 20.
Yeah.
So we've come a long way. But I can remember one time I was really frustrated. And I just turned to him, and this was like, 15 years ago. I was like, I am not a machine. Just because working all these hours, I was trying to finish up my degrees, carting the kids around, homeschooling, just doing all the things.
Yeah. Yeah. And for me, that busyness in my life distracted me from my emotional state. And so I was busy and then I would get outraged, then I'm angry. And I was, that's a big part of my healing is like forgiving the ways I acted because I did not take care of myself. Mm-hmm. I reacted to everybody else because I was so hurt and I kept giving. Well, I've driven you to school and I've got up at 6 a.m. to take you across town for this. And I've bought you this. And I went to every, I was, in every school, I was on every school board that I could be on. And I was, home cooked dinner on the table every single night. And it was like, and I'm working and I created a job that was around everybody's schedule. So I was still there for pickup and this. And yet I didn't know who I was. I didn't, my needs were not getting met, but I didn't even know what they were. Well, I
know, absolutely.
I knew what some of them were. I needed emotional connection in my relationship with my husband. And we were the same. I was 20 when we got married. We were 18 when we got together. And we got married to go to Australia so he could be on my visa. I got a job over there. And I said to him, I proposed to him and I said, let's get married. Let's go have a fun year. And if we get back and we don't want to be together, we can get a divorce. And it was a great time. And he was just like, I'm Catholic. I'm going to get married once. Like, this is not. And then I was like, I shouldn't do this, but I want to go to Australia. So I'm going to do it. I knew internally, and that was, I'm 20 years old, not listening at all to my intuition. Right, and I'm telling my mom, I don't know. I don't think this is a good idea. Of course you have coffee. You know, she was 17 when she had me. So it's like, and then I'm sitting there in this marriage and I'm 20 years old saying, I need emotional intimacy. And he doesn't know. And looking back, I knew that need from an early age. I also wanted it even before my marriage. I wanted it with my parents. I wanted it with my, you know, I wanted it as a child and I didn't have it. So that became a clear thing that I knew I needed emotional intimacy, but the other parts of me, nature, living in nature, you know, having this a deep connection to, I had such a hard time with religion that I didn't know spirituality and that I could connect with God outside of
Right.
a structure that didn't resonate with me. So I always had this push pull with, I was a child and I would say, I would run out. My dad was raised Catholic. My mom was raised Baptist, but they were not practicing, but then they had nothing. So we had nothing. So I would go to all these different churches with my friends. And I remember I'd run out to the front yard and I'd go, I don't believe in you, God. And then I'd run back in the house and then I'd come back out and I'd be like, just kidding. Because I was so confused of
Mhm.
what I felt, you know. And when I look back on my life, I see how I have been so guided and so supported, and
Yes.
I can see where I listened and I can see where I
Yes.
didn't, you know. And so this past 6.5 years has really been me trusting, surrendering. I was type A, you know, the control
Mhm.
freak. My house was immaculate, you know, and it's like usually people that are struggling, we keep very clean houses because it's a great distraction, you know. This is the one part of my life that's in control, was my
Right.
house and me and how I look. Don't I? Oh, I look put together. I stopped wearing makeup. I stopped giving a shit. I'm like, you know what? I need to drop in to
Yes.
my life.
You know, and
And
it's true because I still keep myself together pretty well, but
yeah,
my house, I mean, it's clean, but I mean, it
yeah,
used to be like eat off the floors clean.
yeah,
You could pull my refrigerator or stove out at any given day and it was going to be spotless. Now,
yeah.
not so much.
Yeah. And because
Um,
there's a balance, because it feels
yes.
good to me. I'm a Libra. I like pretty things. I like my things to be nice.
Yeah.
But now I'll be like, that's okay to be like that for 2 days
Mhm.
because I'm doing this other thing that feels really good for me. And when I get back, I can clean that or I can pull that refrigerator out. And there's a balance for me now and not this like, and I will check in with myself.
Yes.
Distracting. Am I distracting myself
I
from
do. I do.
emotion?
Yes, I do still
Yeah.
check in with myself. And I know that Willow has also talked about making some changes to her diet. And so
Yeah.
did that come from someone else or did that come from you searching? Where did the dietary changes come from?
Yeah. Literally nothing outside of Faslodex, Zoladex, and Ibrance have come from the doctors. And now my third oncologist, she encourages me and she learns from me, you know. Now, the diet, you know, that was obviously, I'd say it's probably the number one thing that people want to know right off the bat. What do you eat? And this is what I tell everybody. It is going to evolve and change through your journey. And
Mhm.
what's right for you in those first months is not necessarily going to be right for you 6 months or 5 years from now. I've I've done a little bit of everything along the way, and my intuition is what
Yeah.
tells me right now what I'm doing. So in the beginning, I think cutting sugar from your diet is probably a great thing to do.
Mhm.
It is sugar's inflammatory, it's very addictive,
Mhm.
it's in most things. I have been on a crazy slippery slope this past year because I've been in this move. I sold everything in San Francisco, not having a clue what I was doing. I said I would never sell that house. And now I'm living in a forest, like in a place where I can support other people in their healing. It's magical. It was hard to eat with my diet, you know, like this is one of the things I get mad at society. Like, why is it so hard to be healthy?
It
I
really
feel
is.
like we're fighting what society puts out. When you're on a road trip, it's hard to find healthy places to eat. So this past year I had some slippery slopes with a lot more sugar than I would want to eat. And I started feeling it. My
Mhm,
joints started
mhm.
waking up, phlegmy. Really my joints is where, so this is like my marker to myself. How do my hands feel when I wake up? Within 10 minutes, do I wake up feeling like my joints hurt? That's generally going to be because of the things I've been eating. So I have what I started with right away was sugar and alcohol, goodbye. I've never stopped fruit sugar. I definitely ate less of it in the
Right.
beginning.
Mhm.
I'm not afraid of fruits, and I eat a lot of fruit now. But I eat it also in conjunction with other things.
Right.
I eat fats, like even my tea, like I put ghee in my tea to keep fat in my body. Um, I eat as many organic, I research, there's the
Mhm.
clean 15 and the dirty dozen. You can Google that, it's free, and it will tell you the top 15 vegetables and fruits to eat that you don't have to get them organic. So if you live somewhere where it's hard to get, or you just can't afford it, which was my case, I'm like, I can't buy everything organic. And this is telling me the growing practices, the pesticides that they use on these kind of berries. Berries are one of the biggest ones, that I'm always going to eat those organic or I'm not going to eat them.
Right, right.
So I pay attention to the quality is number one of anything I'm eating.
I agree.
And then
Mhm.
plant-based, I eat a lot plant forward. I eat as many plants as I can in my day. And then I eat, I stay away from gluten. If I am going to eat gluten, like getting the things that I've learned overseas in Europe, in Ireland, the way that they grow. That's why Kerrygold doesn't need to be organic. It's because it's grown organically already, that they're not
Mhm.
putting these pesticides in. So if I'm eating, like if you get nice pastas from France, a lot of the ones that they want you to know, this is grown in France with our growing, you're going to be fine when you eat
Yes,
this,
yes.
or Italy. So eating high quality, and I was eating raw, I was eating vegan and vegetarian. Now at this stage right now, I'm eating, I would say, high quality, plant forward, and I am eating meat. And I just talked to, get it at the farmer's market. Even in Mount Shasta, I was able to get, there's a regenerative farm that they are, she was a vegan, and then she started this regenerative farming, and now she is eating meat. She's 4 to 6 ounces a week
Mhm.
is a very healthy amount for your body, and everybody is different.
Yes,
You want
yes.
to check in with yourself. But what I realize is my acupuncturist said, hey, can you add in, are you open to adding in a little bit of meat? I think it will help your energy levels. And I was like, yeah, I'm open to that.
Mhm.
And she wanted me to have 1 ounce a week. When I went and brought that meat home and I measured out 1 ounce, that was 2 tablespoons for 1 week. In society, we're given a 16-ounce steak.
Mhm.
That will clog your liver. That makes your body work really hard to process it.
Mhm.
So this is where we get into these extremes. I wouldn't do anything, I think everything in moderation.
I
So
do. I do
yeah,
want to mention that to anyone watching. I am everyone when I was first diagnosed with cancer, everyone came at me. You have to yeah, I'm sorry. We were having some window cleaners here if y'all hear some noise in the background. But you have to go vegan. You can't have any meat. I have never been someone, and this is something that has been big. It's been hard for my family, and they shouldn't. I don't ever make any rash decisions. Never. I always think things through. It didn't feel right to me to just cut anything out. What did feel right was to take control and start eating organic. Our beef comes, I live in Nebraska. We have a guy who raises a
yeah,
steer just for us in a special way. And then, and it can get expensive. And, when you buy
Yeah.
organic chickens, like I just
Yeah.
bought some organic eggs this morning. I was like, holy
Yeah.
Toledo.
Yeah.
But it's worth it to
Yeah.
know. And, I went to a doctor of naturopathy and she ran some machines on me. And it was funny because some of the things she came up with the body was sensitive to were things I had noticed that are healthy, but I had noticed when I ate them, I felt kind of
Mm,
off. One of them was
mm.
mushrooms, another was avocados. I love avocados. But when I was eating them, I noticed that I just wasn't feeling right. And I thought it was all in my head. But then this machine showed, no, I have a sensitivity to them.
Wow,
And
that's
I,
interesting.
yeah, I mean, she came up with, there were some other things in there. And, I am in the beginning of my cancer journey. I was just diagnosed a few months ago. I've had the lumpectomy, haven't decided on chemo yet, waiting for some tests to come back because I'm really, frankly, not feeling it. So I did, talk to this doctor of naturopathy, and she put me on some supplements. My gut health has never been so great. People say, "Oh my goodness, you look great."
Gut health.
Cancer, I feel fabulous, and I have cancer. I feel better now than I did before the cancer diagnosis, just because
Okay.
and I tried on my own to get control of my gut health, trying all these different things, these different fads, do this, do that. And it wasn't until I went to this one person who was able to run some of these tests that are run on people in Europe, but they're just not run in
Yeah.
America.
Yeah.
It was able to talk about some of my food sensitivities and put me on some supplements, and I feel great.
Gut health is also a huge, I'd say,
Huge.
get your vitamin D tested and see where your vitamin D levels are. If you don't have cancer, get your vitamin D tested. It's a huge correlation, vitamin D deficiency, which most of us have.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
with like I stopped wearing sunscreen 7 years ago, and I never get sunburned. I eat a very healthy diet. They talk about sun on your skin and what you eat, so that there's these sensitivities to what you're eating and how the sun is reacting with it on your skin, and that's what causes us to burn or to get cancers. I don't know, like I heard this and I was like, ooh, that makes a lot of sense to me. I am way less sensitive now, and I eat, like, I don't get burnt, and I go in the sun, and I eat a very healthy diet. So it's very interesting, but I say definitely check your vitamin D, check your gut health is very, very,
Very
very
good.
important.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I too have been really working on my gut, and I've got a friend who's stage 4, and he's an amazing researcher, and he's gone down a pretty wild rabbit hole, and he's making his own yogurts with these special strains that there's studies happening right now with connection to our microbiome and what strains we're lacking or needing and what kind of cancers. So, I mean, there's a lot happening, which feels really exciting. I
But
would like,
you do have to research and look, because
yes,
and I do want to tell everyone again, I want to reiterate that my journey and Willow's journey is not everyone else's journey.
yeah,
And I did, and Willow did the same thing. I didn't even stay with my original doctor, even though when I went to my primary care doctor and asked for a second opinion, they kind of gave me pushback because they said I was seeing the best of the best. But his
oh,
personality just did not mesh with me because I'm a question asker.
yeah.
And
They
I
don't, some doctors really don't like that.
right. And so I'm sure he's a fabulous doctor. His personality just wasn't right for me. I had to go to someone who was going to answer my questions.
Good for you.
And but some people are okay with that. Yes, they want to go strictly Western medicine, and that is fine because that's their
Yeah,
journey.
yeah. You
But
have to do your own journey.
yeah,
And what I tell everybody, there there's not a way to cure cancer. There are a million ways to cure cancer. And every single person, I've heard the craziest stories. I have a friend that he just posted yesterday. He was diagnosed same time as me. He took up barefoot running, and that's his lifestyle, and he's been cancer free from stage 4 for 7 years.
I
He
love that.
Yeah.
Willow, I love that you brought that up because that is such a beautiful, amazing point. He's cancer free. Now, would barefoot running work for me? No, because I'm not being intuitively drawn to that. I have been intuitively drawn to do other things. And so,
Exactly.
like, some of the things that Willow does and I do, they overlap. Like some of the diet stuff, the organic, getting our gut health together. The
Yeah.
cannabis, no, might be because I live in Nebraska. No,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
can't even find it here,
Cannabis,
but
it's not, and that's the thing. And I tell people, it has been my savior, and it is probably one of the hardest things that you can do. Like chemo and doing cannabis to me are very similar. Not in how it affects your body, but like the I was incapacitated for 2 full years on the cannabis. And people come to me and say, "Oh, I want to do cannabis." I'm like, I'll tell you about it, but like, it's not easy. There's other ways to bring cannabis into your healing in low doses that will support, a chemo side effect, or that will help you with your appetite. You don't have to do a ton of it, but to use it the way I used it, I'm like, most people, I'm like, I've had 4 people try that I was coaching on and they couldn't do it. So it's
yeah.
like, you have to find your path. And
Yes,
and
yes.
I believe that healing cancer, if for me, it's why did the first question in your
Right.
journey, why is it here? It wants to tell you something. For me, the people who they get cancer and then you're a victim, and it's like it's very outside of them. I'm not saying that some people get confused. I'm not blaming. We aren't to
Right.
blame. It's
Nope,
that our
nope.
body was
Reacting.
created the perfect environment because of these things: emotions, spirituality, diet, environmental toxins. Cancer, this is on the American Cancer website. This blew my mind. 10% of cancer is from genetics.
Yes, I've read that. I have read that.
90%. That, when I heard that, my mind was like, on the American, this isn't even like a woo-woo thing. This is the American Cancer website. I believed that I was going to, that's why I did all of that early testing, because everybody in my family had it. So this is something to think about. And this is when we go into our spiritual lineage.
Mm-hmm.
There's a reason why every woman in my family has had cancer, because we carry the same lineage, because we came from the same traumas. Our traumas keep getting passed down and passed down and passed down. So I believe that there is a reason why I got it. And it's not, and then when I found out, did all the genetic testing, none of our cancers were genetic. And so 90% of cancer is environmental, lifestyle, all of
Yes.
these other things. So that really helped me in understanding. So I could look at, I thought my diet was healthy.
Agreed. I thought mine was too. And when I really started looking at it, I was like, oh my goodness, this is not as healthy as I thought.
I really thought my diet, I thought I was I made home cooked meals, but it's like that bagged salad with all that stuff in it that feels really fun. Like, oh my gosh, it would be better to have a candy bar sometimes than a bagged salad.
Isn't that the truth? Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that we don't know. So there was this sense of, this, finding where it was like, but for me, it was being in a marriage for now, my ex best friend, we bought this house together. We sold our house together, bought a new house together. He comes up when he wants to. We are more emotionally connected than I've ever felt. I love him in a deeper way than I ever loved him when we were married. And I feel he loves me in a new way, because I'm not this, you suck, you're not doing, our whole marriage, I was telling him how shitty he was because he wasn't meeting my needs. I was a victim. I played the victim role most of my life. And now some of the biggest, I did a guided MDMA mushroom journey, which also is, if that is something that calls to you in your healing, to me, it's a very good way to jumpstart. They do it with cancer patients. They were doing it to help stage 4 people in hospital settings get used to, like dying, getting comfortable with death.
Mm-hmm.
And then they found that they didn't die out because they did these journeys, and they were like, oh my gosh. So for me, I just really realized the pain of not getting my needs met my whole life in all these different ways and being the victim. This journey showed me that I never had to suffer at anyone's hand again, because I chose to stay in the relationships that caused me suffering.
Yes. I have, that's something I get all the time, because I'm also a life coach, and people will come to me and they're just so bent out of shape. They have to know, why did this person treat me that way? Why did this person treat me that way? And, I always come back to, everyone has free will. And if your partner's free will is to be an asshole, then that's their free will. They get to implement it. Now, your free will is to no longer put up with it and to leave.
Yeah.
I know I'm simplifying that, but
exactly. That is a simplified version. And when it all boils down, I woke up 3 days after this journey. It was with a therapist, and she guided me through. And with these journeys, a lot, the medicine and the healing comes way after, when you least expect it. And I woke up in the middle of the night through the cannabis, which is crazy because usually I'm knocked out. And I just had to get a pen and my journal. I never do that. I never get this. And I'm just getting download after download. And I'm like, and it was so crazy to be so happy owning my part in my suffering. There was such liberation. It was like, oh, I have this control that I don't have to do this again.
Right.
Because I know that, I just can walk away from a situation, or I can stand up and share what my needs are. And then if I'm not met, shame on me for keep going back 100 times to a situation that doesn't serve me. Right. That's my lesson. So
I will say, I know that we're about out of time, but I just had some powerful meditations afterwards when I went in search of, yes, I went in search of what energetically do I need to change? What happened here? What went wrong? But then I was also my diet, things that I thought I was doing that was healthy, that were not so healthy after all.
Yeah.
And then, yes, I'm doing some Western medicine. Yes, I have a homeopathic doctor that I use. And I just want everyone to leave this podcast knowing that they need to follow their intuition. I want to thank Willow. She's offering a beautiful, beautiful support. You can go to her website. Her website is meetwillowstar.com. And you can help people one-on-one through this journey. I know a lot of people, and I'm a pretty strong person, but if I had not been as strong as I was, I know I would have caved to some decisions that other people wanted me to make.
Yes.
And I'm the type that if you start bullying me or pushing me in the corner, I'm just like, yeah, that's nice for you. I'm still not doing it. But some people will cave to that. And there was a time in my life where I was not so strong.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let Willow help you and be some of your strength in that.
I love to help people reframe. That's a big thing, is like shifting perspectives, reframe, and really really going into that intuition. And I always tell people, don't make decisions on your doctor's watch, on their time, because they're scheduling you right away. It's okay to take time and say, I need to think. And this is in any way, Oprah had this on her. She said, you can say, when somebody asks of you, hey, guess what? I'm going to think about that and I'll get back to you next week. I'll get back to you tomorrow.
Also,
it's okay to think about things.
Think about them and don't make a decision in fear.
Yeah, absolutely. And listen and trust yourself. And the more you meditate and spend quiet time off of the internet and in nature, I find that the messages become clear, and the more I connect in spirit and ask for those easy and obvious pathways, that I just keep getting them. So
yes. Yeah. Thank you so much for being here today, Willow. I appreciate you so much. For anyone listening, Willow's contact information will be on the verbiage at the bottom of whether you're looking at this on YouTube or on podcast. But I will tell you real quick, her email is connect at meetwillowstar.com. TikTok, Meet Willow Star. Instagram is Meet Willow Star. Website, all her information is on the website. You can contact her through there also, and is meetwillowstar.com. So bottom line, remember, Meet Willow Star, and you're going to find her.
Thank you. I'm all over the internet. If you want to, I say I'm very manifestable. Like if you want to manifest like me, things happen. So just, it's in the ethers.
Thank you for being with me today.
Thank you. And I'm so touched by, this is what warms my heart the most, is seeing people like you that are in the beginning of this journey, who are listening, rooting in, looking at all the options. You're not saying, I'm not doing this, or I'm only doing this. You're saying, I'm open, and there's all these options, and I'm going to take what feels right for me.
Right.
And as my business coach said, make a decision fast, and you can always, like, he's like, I mean, once you make a decision, implement it.
Yes, absolutely.
And you can always course correct later. I'm like,
Right.
oh, I don't want it. I want to eat my food cooked. You know, you can always change it.
Absolutely. I've done that. Matter of fact, someone was talking about, because I was like doing chemo, I had gotten my wig, I'm down that path. And the day before I'm supposed to start, I put out a TikTok saying, you know, I'm not so sure I'm doing this now. And a friend of mine said that she loved how vulnerable that was, that a lot of people, it would be hard to do. I said, hard, you know, it's just so shocking to me. So don't think because you've made a decision, that you can't put the brakes on a little bit and think about it. Don't.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Right. Thank you everyone for joining me today, and meetwillowstar.com. Thank you.